gotta have you
Seneca.
need a
Hey,
you need
folks.
a applause leader. What's up, Zenny? Yes, sir. What's up?
My friend's running for mayor, and he's got a great message I want you to hear. And look, I'm really impressed with what Seneca has done in the mayor's race, and I want him to tell you all about it. Seneca, please talk about the homelessness problem and your nationwide message that applies not just to Oakland, but to the whole country, really, arguably the whole world. I think.
Well, I would like to say, I'm gonna do something different this time, Zenny.
Oh, by the
You
way,
read
he didn't pay me for this, but if he had, I'd to let you know.
so
Okay.
you read the op-ed in Newsweek. So I would ask because a lot of people responded to it and they hit me up, excited about it, and it got some criticism, but for the most part, it was extremely well received, even in places that I didn't think people thought that they were politically homeless. And I guess it mimics the numbers that showed fully one third of America, at 100 million people, describe themselves as politically homeless. And that doesn't even include the people who actually identify with a party who are disillusioned right now. So the question I'll ask you is, what did you like or dislike about the article? And what did you find valuable and what did you take away from it?
What I liked about the article, I have to admit, I didn't read it in depth, so forgive me for that. But what I read, this is what I saw. I saw you aiming a message at the left, and I'm leftist, okay, but I'm old school leftist. Old school leftists understand legislation. Sometimes old school leftists borrow ideas that someone might think are conservative. An old school leftist might, someone might think Ronald Reagan today is a leftist. Okay, I'm not a fan of Reagan, but my point is I'm a fan of good policy that does one thing, two things: follows the U.S. Constitution, yours does, gets people address and gets us to think about and then solve our problems of what I call kitchen table politics. Putting food on the table, keeping a roof over your head. Because without a roof, you can't have a kitchen table anyway, because you can't have a kitchen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what I saw there was you're the first Oakland Oakland person running for office that has taken a message nationally that wasn't really about promoting them, but it was about attacking some sacred cows. And we have a lot of sacred cows that need to be attacked because if they didn't, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in Oakland, let alone the country. We have a problem with implementation. That's what I saw. I plan to read it even more in depth later, but what I saw was you saying things that needed to be said. And you did it in a publication that's conservative, but you weren't espousing a conservative line. Okay? You were espousing a pragmatic line. And we need more.
I thought that was classic liberalism, but I guess we've moved our to your point, Zinni, we've moved our barometers around so much, no one knows what's what anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I will also add, when you mentioned that Ronald Reagan would be, some of his things would be considered right now more corporate Democrat, I'll add that other countries, most countries in Europe, have much more parties. The political spectrum has more integrity. And in order to get anything done, they have to have factions between those multiple parties that agree on policy and have to implement it together, which requires some degree of coordination and cooperation.
Yep.
And I can't say bipartisanship because they don't have a duopoly, but cooperation across the political factions, which would be four or more typically. And it doesn't matter if you have a leading factions, they still cannot do anything alone, nor are they fighting a singular adversary. So they have to make a deal. We've deliberately kept our country a duopoly, despite the fact that people are clearly speaking by opting out of voting or saying that they don't want to be in a party anymore. And even in Oakland, with our own duopoly that we have in Oakland between the meek moderates and phony progressives, as I'm calling them now, right? And that's our duopoly, and we're all suffering in the middle from it. And it mimics, oddly enough, even though we're mostly left of center here in Oakland, and some libertarians, and we have 10,000 registered Republicans, 7,000 of which who vote religiously. That's not a small number when you're looking at mayoral elections that I think Libby got, what, 50,000 votes last time? So that's more than 10% of what she won with.
Yep.
And nobody's after those votes, but me, I'm after them because I'm not a Democrat. So I have that freedom they don't have because I can focus typically on the issue. And what my message that I wanted to take was, in Oakland, two things are happening. One is everywhere is dealing with this problem. America's experiencing the beginning stages of a potential economic collapse. Our food and energy prices are escalating. We have a war that's brewing. That war is causing further constraints on our supply chain and food and energy. And we still haven't fully got out of COVID. I say that because we haven't ended our rent moratoriums in Alameda County yet. There's a lot of things that we're still kicking the can down the road for when it comes to dealing with the pandemic. So we're going to go through this storm, and right now with these leaders, one thing that I've been saying lately, I'm kind of joking, but I'm not, is the complexity and intensity of our issues as they are now, and especially what's coming in the next few months and years in America, require leaders that can metaphorically unicycle and juggle. And our leaders now can barely walk and chew gum.
Yep, absolutely.
They're just not sophisticated enough to be trusted with the leadership of a city in this time. And I don't mean that with any disrespect. Prove me wrong. Show me.
What is it that most irks you about the homeless problem in Oakland right now?
What is the what about the homeless?
What is it that most irks you, upsets you about the homeless problem?
What affects me is this fake compassion or this contempt for Black and poor people masked as compassion and this advanced NIMBYism of these nonprofits and homeless industrial complex that has shown zero proof of concept that their housing first policies work, and they're oversimplistic, and the end result of them are further harm to the Black communities, and they're dishonest about it. They move the goalposts. They never engage you intellectually honest in a public forum or public debate. And if you look at it, most of these people are white. And you know something, Cindy?
Yep.
I got some justice. I don't talk about myself a lot, to your point. I had a national audience, not just an op-ed, but an interview on the Hill Rising. I didn't even mention my mayoral. I mean, they had it down there, but I didn't talk about myself at all. Neither did I talk about myself in this op-ed. I didn't self-promote at all. Even though I'm right in an election, I focused on the issue. I focused on the issues because that's the issue with the performative altruists right now. It's all about them performing and trying to get some sort of credit for their social credit scores and obsession with their phones and social media and these optics that they forgot where the revolution is. And then they weaponize despair, and then they prop up these fake leaders. So I'm gonna talk about it right now. I was kicked off of Oakland Now Facebook group for simply posting Malcolm X quotes about not trusting white liberals. For the exact same content that got me national attention, I was banned from next door groups and Oakland Facebook group because those white people couldn't handle that. No, dead ass, bro. Dead ass. Whoever runs Oakland Now, you're a piece of shit. And you're a racist. You know who you are. I hope he sees this. And Black people who are still participating on that forum, why have you not left yet? We know, we've talked about this in our own forums. You know he's a racist. He's the bigot who censors Black voices who want to speak our own story that isn't sanctioned by them. Why are you still participating in this Oakland Now forum? Why is there no public discourse about how damaging and how insidious this forum is? But anyway, I'll get back to it.
So, who is this person again?
Oakland Now. Just look it up. Oakland Now Facebook group.
Okay.
Yeah, anybody listening, if you're in Oakland Now, yeah, go find out what's going on. And why am I banned from Oakland Now for simply saying that white liberals and white woke are contemptuous of the Black community? Because Newsweek shouldn't have a problem with it. The Hill Riser didn't have a problem with it. USA Today, I got another op-ed coming. I got a problem with it. We're just starting, bro. Newsweek liked the op-ed so much, they said, give us another one. Oh, yes. So, I got a bigger microphone now, right?
Yeah.
Every time you hear about homeless in Oakland and the Bay, it's San Francisco. No one ever talks about Oakland.
That's right. They don't.
They don't.
You're right.
So we're going to bring that conversation back to Oakland and the people who are actually causing this problem. No, the liberals are not causing homelessness. Homelessness is caused by the economic collapse, by unchecked capitalism, by greed, by racist freaking vote. We already know, man. I got to go, no. I don't like to weaponize that victimhood, and I'm a self-determination type person. But yes, the larger issues are class warfare across the races. Absolutely. But when we here on a local level, when you're talking about local offices, the local office is meant for the job. So let's say you hired a janitor for your nuclear physics company or whatever. You got a tech company and you do high-end science stuff, like for NASA or something, real super high-end. And you want to fill a janitorial position to clean up the, management. That's actually an important job with labs and things like that. You got to keep it clean. You got to make sure that it's safe and you're consistent. Imagine applying for that job, and then once you get it, you go off talking about how you're going to change the companies at a scientific level. Because that's what Carol Fife did in D3.
Yeah.
You're going to tackle we didn't hire you for that. We hired you to be the janitor.
Yep.
Clean up these potholes, talk to the people who live here, empower us, not just special interests. I don't care how altruistic you believe your special interest to be. That ain't the job we hired you for. And that's the big issue with Oakland politics right now that I'm having. They're not doing their job. They're not accountable. They want to just use it as a stepping stone for their special interest. And that special interest ain't got nothing to do with Oakland neighbors and businesses.
Okay, so you win, you're mayor. What's Mayor Scott going to do regarding the homeless situation?
First thing is, we got to stop the bleeding. I'm working with Vincent Williams III from the Urban Compassion Project. And if you haven't heard of him, you got to look him up. He is one of the most effective homeless advocates in the city. His organization has cleaned up 3 times more trash than Public Works has this past year. He's recently had a speaker series at Berkeley High School of Business where he slammed housing first policies as well. And he's talking about the same stuff I talk about. It's that he's been homeless. This is community.
That's his name?
Let me see. I got to scroll up. Vincent Williams.
You said the third.
Yeah. And you can check them out on Urban Compassion Project.
Urban Compassion Project. Okay. That's right.
And they're doing amazing work to service the unhoused, to provide services for the unhoused. He's a thing. The organization does the work. And he's a homeless advocate. You know why I like Vincent? Because Vincent's the person who tells me how we've handled this problem. Because Vincent's been over half his life homeless. He was addicted to drugs. He went to jail. He did a bid. And now he's a survivor. His testimony is empowering to all of us. And now he's a thought leader and a visionary in helping us solve these problems. First, you got to inject yourself in the community with love, like Joey Harrison from the Village of Love likes to say. You got to lead with love. Figure out what people need. Are you the 70% who needs drug and mental health services, or are you the 30% who just needs a house? Then next, you need to engage that community and tell them there's a timeline, that this place is about to be shut down, and you got a choice to take these services or not. But either way, you're not going to be staying here much longer. Then you get them that services for real, not for fake. They leave, you clean it up, you put a sign up that says no more illegal dumping. You stop the illegal dumping. That's a different issue than the homeless. You stop the open-air drug dealing and you arrest those dealers. Vincent watched one of his friends who told him he wanted to go to rehab. So he said, okay, I'm going to come get you. And right when he gets there, his friend died in his arms of a drug overdose of his last hit of fentanyl.
No.
And across the street, the dealer's still selling it. And he says to the officer, hey, they're selling death right there. You just killed my friend. And the officer says, my hands are tied from city council. Is he telling the truth? Probably not all the way. But the point is, kind of, because Barbara Parker not prosecuted. You got people like Bass and Fife talking out both sides of their mouth about the problem. So, I mean, they don't want more police. More police don't stop crime. Let's talk about that. Here's one of the messages that the wokes and the black bougie wokes and the fake activist woke and the ATPT wokes and Cap Brooks and Kel Fife and Turlock and all of them who come debate me about it. I'm going to give you a little preview of what's coming for you. When you say more police don't reduce crime, that's a logical fallacy, and here's why. You didn't determine from what baseline.
Right.
Oakland is at 60% staffing right now. So from a 60% staffing baseline, more police doesn't reduce crime? Show me the studies, because the studies you show, the baselines are much, much higher. I think that's sort of important, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we can't talk about that.
Mr. Scott.
We can't talk about that. She's not going to answer you, but I ask these questions all the time. They ignore me now. They used to have a little slick stuff to say when they had the little woke echo chambers to come bully me. But as you well know now, the wokes are on the run politically. They're losing all the elections.
Yep.
That's a poisonous brand. So come say something now that you don't have your little woke echo bully chambers. I survived that salvo. I'm still standing. They tried to cancel me. It ain't work. I'm a real activist, not a fake one, not a performative one. My roots are deep. You can't blow a tree over with deep roots. That's real activism. But we're gonna blow them right over. We're gonna blow them right over. The argument don't stand up. It don't stand up. And now I got a microphone too. Let's debate. You're gonna debate me sooner or later. We're gonna talk about this. Either I'm gonna crucify you in a court of public opinion, or you're gonna come to me and we're gonna create a consensus as real black people. We're gonna move together. That invitation is open. We don't have to be adversarial. But while they playing these little games they like to play, talking behind my back all slick and greasy, I say it to your face right here. Carol Fife, Turlock, Cap Brooks, come see me. Email me, call me. You got my number. Holler at me. It's just gonna get worse.
Hey, so as mayor,
to answer your question, because I was mad. The first thing we need to do is this. No. We don't get the services from Alameda County. We got 70% of Alameda County is homeless. We don't get nowhere near the corresponding line item budget amount. But here's the thing. Nothing changes in Oakland until we change our structure. That hybrid model, Jerry Brown tried to go to a strong mayor model in 97 and he failed. His consolation was to keep the strong mayor branding and go to a hybrid model in 98 at Measure X, which succeeded. Now, we know it didn't work. Oakland is the 8th largest city in the state. We're one of 3 port cities. We're the only one of the 10 cities, the top 10 cities in California that doesn't have a strong mayor model. But here's the problem.
Wait. Did you say Measure X was defeated?
No, Measure X succeeded in 98.
Yeah.
That was my
job.
but here, remember, y'all called it a strong mayor, but strong mayor failed in '97.
Right. Elihu, well, it failed because Elihu wanted it. I worked for Elihu, and I actually, on the '96, I wrote in favor of it in my Montclarian column, and Chip Brown, Warren Chip Brown, who was the publisher of Hill's newspaper group, cut me after saying, along with his late editor Chris Treadway, who hired me 3 years prior to that, that when I went to him saying that Elihu made me the offer to be economic advisor, I said, does that mean I can't keep my column? And Treadway said, oh, no, you can. Just put at the bottom, economic advisor, mayor of Oakland. So I was fine for a year until we got to the matter of getting strong mayor for a black mayor. When it came, okay, just being real. But when it came to Jerry and his attacking the black establishment, because that's what he said he wanted to do, all right, he tried to poke, he used a racist stick to poke a bear. But the bear he was poking wasn't really the black establishment. The bear he was poking were racists out there who bought into that idea. That was the real bear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And he won with Measure X. But see, the whole strong mayor system, and we can talk about this another time because I want to...
But Cindy, let me ask you a question.
Yeah, sure.
Why do we say strong mayor? Where does that appear in the legislation?
Well, that's a good question. It's not... I was just going to simply say, to close out my response and hear you, that the late Richard Winnie, who was a mentor of mine and our Alameda County Council and Port of Oakland supporter and commissioner and everything else, but he got together with Dick Spees, who you should really get to know. He's in his 90s, would appreciate the outreach. I got to give him a call myself. He's just a great guy. Although we used to have this, John Russo would say Dick Spees before he dicks you, but it's true. Okay, I've been around. Okay,
been around. You just say something.
But my point is that I love Dick. I mean, Dick and I worked together we yanked Cirque du Soleil from San Francisco and brought it to Oakland in '96. But my point is that everybody at the time, Seneca, was saying, including Elihu, that you couldn't get anything done under the council manager form of government. But then Elihu said, I can count to 5. And Ignacio had really wrested a lot of power from Elihu. And so Elihu was getting frustrated and wanted strong mayor. Jerry got it, but
He didn't get it. He got a hybrid model.
No, he got strong mayor.
No, it's not a strong mayor. You can't call it that when you don't have when the mayor can't vote on the budget, has no line item veto power. That's the point I'm trying to make. We're the only city out of a top 10 cities in California where our mayor doesn't have line item veto power over the budget.
I understand that, but I'm saying that compared to what we had, it's
compared to what we had, it's stronger.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that Oakland politics would never allow that.
Oh, whoa! I beg to differ. Here's why. The number one issue missing in Oakland right now. What's the biggest word missing in Oakland politics? The biggest thing missing in Oakland politics. The reason why we're having issues here in Oakland. Because accountability. I would say it's lack of institutional memory myself. Okay, well, that's a little nuanced and maybe too highbrow for the average person. So, and I would say that it includes an accountability factor, if you would allow me to be so gracious. And here's what I say about accountability. It's all marketing. On my website, it doesn't say strong mayor. It says Oakland deserves an accountable mayor. We deserve to elect a mayor who actually has the power. What's the point of saying, what are you going to do as mayor if they can't even do it? Well, she doesn't. That's right. I'm not saying it's effective, but what I'm saying is that it was called strong mayor. It's referred to that in the charter. Does it work perfectly? No. Do I favor a mayor having line item veto power myself? No. Did I like the old system? Yeah. So you're talking to a guy who loved the old system. So, I talked to some people today who love the old system. Yeah. We got, why? Because it focused on the professional bureaucrat and what the professional bureaucrat did. Now we've got people in, and I'm sorry I have to be honest. I'm not a fan of activism. And the reason I'm not is simply that
there's a tendency to not pay attention to the minutia of government, how
You
things
don't have to
work.
apologize to me. I'm in your boat with that one.
Yeah,
That's not activism. It's collectivism.
right,
They're fake.
right. Because Carol, I've been easy on Carol, but I'm just tired of my council member constantly going out and doing these teach-ins when she should be working on getting money to businesses in her district and helping people not be homeless and using the Polanco Act to take over homes.
Carol Fife is in North. He's in North. I'm running for mayor, so I'm all over the city. I'm in Noah Gallo's district. Carol got time to be on his thread talking about I'll come and help you talk to me. What are you talking about, lady? You ain't doing your own job in your own district. These people are delusional, man.
And
They got some kind of messianic complex or something.
Yeah, Seneca, I don't personally dislike Carol. I don't know her.
I don't care whether you do or not. My district is suffering right now. We're not building housing right now. She's posturing.
Yep.
You're not, all right? Carol Fife told the John Jones Democratic Club that she would vote no on that stadium because that was the condition of their endorsement. And when I asked the John Jones Democratic Club, I'm not sure.
Terminal, right?
Huh?
Talking about Howard Terminal.
Yes, Howard Terminal. Yeah. So when I asked them, I said, hey, man, I don't know enough yet. I don't know yet. They said, well, if you don't know yet, don't apply for our endorsement. This endorsement is for people who have already made that decision. That endorsement went to Carol Fife. The first vote, she abstained. Now she wants to put the vote back on the people. Why don't you just be honest and say you already sold off on it?
Yep.
Because it's not honest.
No, not only that, she claimed that the last time the Athletics contacted her was after the inauguration. But she said she reportedly said that I got that from the East Oakland Stadium Lions in a newsletter. All right. And that was like a few days ago. Do you realize that 3 weeks ago she was on YouTube with Taj Tahom, who was the vice president of the A's? Okay.
How much? Nobody checks her because they're all scared that they think somehow she was so active. No, it's over. But she about to get recalled. I don't have nothing to do with it. But every day somebody calls me like, I voted for Carol. How do I recall her? A day don't pass when somebody don't email, text, or call me about recalling Carol Fife.
Well, it might be. It's a good idea because
that's why she's in the news right now talking about I'm not running again. I'm sorry. You know she's in the news right now talking about I'm not running again.
Oh, is that right?
I don't know if I'm going to run again. Everyone hates me.
No one hates Carol.
Whatever, bro. That's just so whack, bro. That shit is whack.
I don't hate Carol at all. I barely know her. In the old days of Oakland politics, like Nancy Nadell, I was never her favorite cup of tea. But when she was running for city council, you know what she did? In spite of all the personal arguments we had, I don't want to go into and all that because it was a big misunderstanding. But it goes back to like 1991. But my point is, she called me and asked for my endorsement, and I gave it to her. Okay, that's what we used to do. In other words, we might have any disagreements here and there, but I don't disagree with the person. We're all family in Oakland. We have to take care of each other.
That's why you didn't see me slamming anyone. And when it comes to national media, I'm not slamming them. We're a family here. But when it comes, you're a part of the family. So when it comes to your show, we're going to talk a little more intimate about Oakland detail because we're all here on this level of elevation. These things affect our businesses and our livelihoods and our legacy.
Yep. Absolutely.
So it's a little bit higher stakes. We have to be honest with each other as stakeholders and the sovereignty of this city. And I don't dislike anybody. It's not a personal thing. Everything I've said, I've come right with facts of why I feel that way. Right away. John Jones Democratic Club, question for you all. How come you haven't made a public statement and you ignored my emails when I asked you for accountability for integrity in your vetting process? You told me not to apply. The person who applied has not voted no yet.
Say that again?
They told me not to apply because I was undecided on Howard Terminal. They gave their endorsement to Carol Fife, which means that she had to say she was no on Howard Terminal. When the very first vote came up on Howard Terminal, she abstained. Now she wants to put the vote back on the people. That's her new thing. Why don't you just say, I took an endorsement that I'm no on it. There's an integrity issue there.
if you become mayor, let's say when you become mayor, as Mayor Scott, how would you mentioned Vincent Williams III, but also, hey, what do you think of the job that Joe DeVries has done over the years regarding the homeless situation?
I thought it was Ed Riskin who was more responsible for the city manager role.
Well, Ed's new. Ed's been there. I've known Ed for a long time, but Ed has been there for about maybe 2 years now. But Joe DeVries has been in his place regarding, I guess, the better term is homeless coordinator, essentially, for about, I would say, well, he technically predates Libby's term and was grandfathered in and has remained in his role for quite some time. And he got promoted in the city administrator's office. Personally, I like Joe a lot. He's a great guy to hang out with. That's quite separate.
We've hung out before, so I don't. That's why I thought he had a different job of in a department coordinator or something.
No, I'll tell you what, Joe is one of the nicest people you ever meet. You know,
he is a nice guy, but that's nothing to do with the job.
Right.
So if he's responsible for homeless and we're here, then I think that speaks for itself.
Mm-hmm.
I also know that as an unelected official, was he the city manager then?
No.
Okay, so then if you're not the city manager appointed by Libby or the mayor or a council person, because this is why nothing gets done in Oakland. I like to use the encampment policy as a perfect example.
Okay.
The encampment management policy was birthed in Lauren Taylor's Life and Enrichment Committee. And he wrote it. And he worked with the encampment management team, which was headed by Daria Dunstan, who now works for the San Francisco Foundation with Fred Blackwell. Mm-hmm. And over the course of 2 years, they interviewed countless stakeholders and forged this plan. And then Lauren, in his wisdom, and that's a shout out, even though I want to beat his butt in the election, in his wisdom, said, I'm going to make us vote on this during the election, because he wasn't up for election. But Kaplan was, and Cal was, and Lynette was. I think that was it.
Yeah. That was 2020 election.
Yeah. Hey, my headphones are dying. I got to switch them out. Hold on.
Okay. Yeah, he's talking about the 2020 election, folks. When Rebecca Kaplan went up against Derek Johnson, beat Derek Johnson.
Derek Johnson against Kaplan, and then you had Nancy Seabatom was in that race. Seabatom. I don't want to mess up her name. I love Nancy. She's so awesome.
Yeah, Nancy Sidebottom.
Sidebottom. She's a fighter. I like Nancy a lot. And yes. and I like Stephanie Watson. I voted for Stephanie. Was a good candidate. She was my number 2 vote. I like Derek Johnson. Was my no Cal. No.
But I'm saying, I said she took on Dan Cal.
Thank you, and she should have won. And I know that district is kicking themselves the same way D3 is kicking themselves.
Like, I think as a guy who supported Dan, the reason why I made the decision that I did, and I like both, but I'll just say this publicly, but I'm nuancing it because it's nothing against Stephanie or her husband, but I object when a person doesn't understand enough about how to get things done in terms of the laws of the city and the bureaucracy. And so they resort to attacks. And they tried to do one of those gotcha attacks on Dan, and they lost me because they didn't have a message. Like, you have a message regarding what's wrong with homelessness, our policies, everything else. And you're not trying to make somebody look bad by saying, oh, see, you were unethical, right? You're not doing that. But that's what Stephanie did. And I don't like that, because when you fashion that political gun and you fire that at somebody, basically, because of the way things work, you set it up to where it can be fired back at you. And so anything that you do, someone's going to be looking for that to do the same gotcha, because in their mind, you did it either to them or somebody that they like. And I'm not saying I would ever have done that to Stephanie or considered it. I just got turned off. You know, I had a private conversation with her and her husband about.
Who's her husband? I don't.
Mark, he was an attorney, a nice guy, all right. But I I really patently disagreed with what I consider bullying tactics on their part. They seem to forget that I had a right to my own point of view. Most folks do. And I didn't appreciate it. My point is, hey, look, if you have an idea and you disagree with me, try to convince me intellectually, but don't just say I have to think about something a certain way, because I don't.
Hate that stuff.
Right, and that's how she came at me, and
it's a bullying tactic. I don't like it
because I didn't think she was like that, and I was extremely disappointed. I know she wanted to win, and I think her cognitive knives came out, if you will. But I just didn't like the take that she put on. It left me with a bad taste.
It's hard because you have to, if you're going to go after Cal, the way you go after Cal is not to take on an arena where he's actually probably the strongest person on the council, which is policy. He's a policy whiz. You don't take him on there.
Well, actually, you do. That's, you know what? You take him on where his strength lay, because it means that, and the reason why I say that is this. Dan is there because Dan, at the end of the day, understands that policy drives government. And at the end of the day, he can explain the A, B, C's, and D's of why a policy worked or didn't work, or why a group did something or did not. And that's really, at the end of the day, all that matters. And that's what I love about Dan. Dan is intellectual that way. And the only thing that I disagree about how Dan handles things is I think that he is too much trying to be an appeaser of certain groups. Like, he thinks it's okay if it's an environmental group. But then my thought is, well, hey, it's all white. So why would you side with a group that doesn't have anybody black in it? Or, maybe has like one black person out of 100.
It's performative.
Okay. So my point is, and again, these aren't, what I'm saying to you, I have said to Dan in the past, but I like Dan Cal. Okay. And I like him as a person, and I like him how he thinks about government. And if I were to go up against him, not me personally, but if someone were to say, how do you go up against Dan Cal or any political person, you attack their strength. You don't say, hey, that's their strength, I'm not going to touch it. Because you want to beat somebody and you know what their strength is, you can't beat them, you're not going to win, because you just acknowledged what their strength is, right?
So how about this for a creative approach to that? For someone who shown an adept ability to understand the nuance of policy and how things work, and to have so much experience, the fact that the policy you've created has worked backwards and you have no proof of concept is actually even more alarming than not, because you know what to do. So the question is, why aren't you doing what you know is right? How about that one?
That's right, but you have to basically say, hey, look, policy A was established, like our homeless policy, and well, look at the results. Okay. And ask the major question that I would borrow from the Reagan campaign. First of all, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? All right. And that's the main question you have to ask. And if you use that, you hammer that home with your campaign, even if you don't win, I guarantee you get a lot of votes, because it's simple. It's a simple question. Or like my buddy, Al Roca, I haven't seen in years, who was Al
Roca?
Yeah, Al Roca. Yeah, Al Roca. Al Roca, Latino unions for years. I haven't seen. You see Al, tell him I love him, man. I haven't seen Al in a long time, man. He used to come by my office and we'd have lunch all the time. I love Al. He always used to say to me, Zinni, if you like what you're getting, keep on doing what you're doing. Do you like what you're getting? And that's the question you ask.
Oh, I'm having so much fun in these Oakland streets. We building a populist movement in Oakland. They ain't seen it before. They don't even know what's hitting them. There's a quote I've been getting a lot of mileage with lately. I probably said it to 7 people today alone. Every single time the person stopped to think about this quote. And to me, it's important to people to understand this quote. You understand my campaign. There are decades when little happens, and there are weeks when decades happen. Time is not linear. It's from Lenin. Lenin's quote. Time's not linear is a shorter way of saying that. there are accelerated times that you live in sometimes. And if you let your normalcy bias and you become complacent, how many parables are in the Bible or in all religious stories about these things? And they change on a dime. Intelligent people can feel the winds of change. Philosophers and warrior poets can feel the winds of change because they're open, they're not entrenched in ideology. But the people right now in Oakland who are entrenched in ideology, they have no idea what's happening right now. And they're not going to be able to lead this city effectively. There's just no way.
What are you seeing on the ground in terms of homelessness that gives you encouragement or not?
What gives me a lot of encouragement is Vincent's work. I want to get back to that. He's been able to go to places and get people to accept services. The big reason why people don't accept services who are mentally ill and drug addicted, because you just show up with an eviction notice and the boots and the encampment suite. Got 48 hours, bitches.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of, that's traumatic as fuck. How in the world do you expect? Okay, oh, by the way, you have 48 hours to move, but here's a hotel you can move to 5 miles away from your drug dealer that you need your drug because you're an addict.
Huh.
Or away from your community, the only 2 friends you got in the world because you're mentally unstable and these are the only people you trust. And now you got to move away from them. You may not be in a home, but that's still your community.
So you're saying they're pushing people out?
Oh, big time. They're not doing it right. Most people think that I'm in favor of that because they don't want to think about the nuance. I want these people help. When compassion looks like what looks around Oakland, that is contempt. That is mass contempt. We are being fooled and hoodwinked and bamboozled by these white people once again with their Black Lives signs in their windows. They still bleed their hearts. Got 18, 11 bedrooms in their house. Gonna come down and volunteer at the homeless camp every single weekend for 3 years straight, and you ain't met not one person you trusted enough to take back to your house and your room. Because I've housed homeless people off the streets in my house. Activists, I'm talking to y'all. I'm taking people off Wood Street, put them in my bedroom or my couches because they were young people and they didn't need to be out there. It's the why I yanked them off the street and put them in my house and fed them. I don't self-promote that a lot. I'm just saying that because they don't do that. But they talk the biggest shit. Man, it's so fake. I'm so over this stuff, bro. I'm taking them on. They got to go. Black people are not going to poor people. If anybody in your movement, if the leaders of your movement don't look like the constituents, it's flawed.
That's a great point.
That's why Chris Smalls from Amazon is kicking butt. And he don't like AOC.
Yeah.
Chris Smalls from Amazon, who with $100,000 took on Amazon and won when big labor couldn't do it with tens of millions because he worked there and looked like them because he is them. Thousands of those workers work with AOC. Not work, live in AOC's district. Thousands of them. They're her constituent. They invited her to a rally. She blew them off. She made excuses. She never supported them because the optics didn't, whatever reason she did it. And then when they won, she went to tweet some support. Chris Smalls aired her out. So take your fake ass out of here. AOC, the revered woke, is not connecting with the Amazon Workers Union in her area. Oh, y'all fake. I call bullshit on your movement. Y'all fawning over AOC. She cool, but how come she ain't connected with Chris Smalls? How come them Amazon workers don't like her? They supposed to be her people. Because she over here at the Met Gala with Eat the Rich on her dress. But when it's time to stand up for workers, she quiet. They fake, phony pussy fans. Like what did Nas say when he was dissing Hov? Right? Like it's fake, bro. I can't air them out enough. I'm so over this crap.
She went from poverty to limousine liberal like that. Woo.
Yeah. Woo.
I mean, in office.
You know why? Because she's one of the most powerful people in our government because of her Twitter presence.
Huh.
AOC is brilliant. AOC is a disruptor. She knows this, but them good intentions got her down a road to hell. That's a lot of power she touching. She didn't know what she wasn't ready for it. Because her roots wasn't deep enough.
Have you sought to get endorsements from anyone on the national stage since you're now on?
No, not yet. I just been on my. I don't. You know, my campaign is about two things. I need $500,000. I need the max. I need big old banners on buildings downtown, like Jerry Brown had, that say we deserve better, and vote for Seneca Scott. And I'm already getting that done. So people see me every time they go downtown in a big old building.
Yep.
Forget them endorsements for the other people. I don't like most of them. And then the most important part, I don't want to spend all my time raising that money. I need to spend time in front of the people. The people right now vote. Oakland's 200-something thousand people. The more I'm chasing down frivolous endorsement, the less I'm talking to voters who actually vote, the less I'm actually doing the work. I'm doing the work right now. My campaign will have a net positive on Oakland, win or lose, because I'm already doing the work. I'm not telling you I'm going to do the work if you elect me. I'm doing the work right now.
Yeah.
That's the difference. I don't have time for anything else but the work. If the work leads me to a victory, then God has gave me the glory or whatever. You know, the God of glory, whatever the heck. You know what I mean? But if it don't, whatever, I'm gonna keep doing the work.
Has anyone talked to you about teaming up with them with respect to ranked choice voting?
Oh no, they scared of me, man. But I'm gonna reach out to Greg Hodge because I think that we should team up because we're good friends. We like each other. He's one of the people who brought me into Oakland and mentored me. That's my barber. That's the OG. I respect him. I love him. We should just team up for the West. And we don't agree on everything, but we love one thing. We love black people, and we both know that. So we should team, and we want to bring the West up. So we could team up for the West. And he's the only person right now who I would partner because Derek Johnson dropped out, and I love Derek too. You know what I like about Derek Johnson?
District 2.
Yeah, he's gonna run for District 2 and take on Bass. I'm happy about that, and I'm also happy I'm not running against him anymore because, you know, like he could probably, you know, it's more competition, right? I want to win, but the reason, you know, why I like Derek don't self-promote either. In the last 3 weeks alone, I've met a dozen black men who are formerly incarcerated who told me in confidence the amazing things Derek Johnson has done for them. That alone, right? That alone, you got it, bro. You got to respect the work. I don't care about the talk. You got to respect the work. So politically, I think I have better ideas for the mayor level, but he needs to be of service to the D2. I hope he wins. We're going to work hard to get him that win and get Bass up out of there because you don't care about the people. Derek Johnson absolutely cares about Oakland. His heart is here. He's born and raised in Acorn. He believes Oakland. He's here for the right reasons, and everything he's doing is for the right reasons. And the way that they attacked him from the unions was racist. It made me lose a lot of respect for labor.
There's an idea that, at least there used to be an idea. Correct me if things have changed. Derek says they have. Others said they have. I thought I was shocked at the community coalition that Nikki Fortunato Bass amassed to run the first time. It took me, it blindsided me. But
that's their new playbook. It was Bass, then Fife, and they think they're going to do it with Sheng, but they're going to lose with Sheng. And once they lose with Sheng, they're all exposed.
But my question, though, is, are you saying that Nikki can't form that group anymore? Or she's
that group's brand is soiled. That group's brand was progressive. Progressives right now are not in vogue in the Bay Area. They're losing elections left and right. They're losing recalls left and right. It's a soiled brand. People know that they're fake.
Yeah, I think, you know, like nationwide. What do you think on that note? What do you think of the claims that the Black Lives Matter founders use the part of the money they raise for, you know, pretty expensive homes?
So, I know Melina Abdullah. Melina Abdullah used to be my union member when I was the organizer for California Faculties Association, and my route was Los Angeles, Cal State, LA. And I was actually one of the people who got her involved. She ended up being a union president, brilliant organizer, powerful person. She's a mother with beautiful children. I have a ton of respect for her. So for that reason only, I'm not going to just shoot from the hip with what I like to think about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Foundations all the time that Black organizations in Oakland beg for money have all types of mansions and houses and getaways that they don't live in as part of their foundation. And nobody asks them, why did they spend the money on that fancy building in San Francisco or on this whatever, or on that retreat or whatever. Whatever, I don't care. I don't give a fuck. That's my answer. Whatever. If they're living there and they're taking money under false pretense and they're actually living there, shame on them. They say they don't live there. It's a place for their beatings and getaways or whatever. If that's true, fine. I don't care.
My question is, and the reason why I never touched it is because I was thinking, well, wait a minute, if they made that their job, I mean, if they're paying themselves a salary, shouldn't they be able to buy some living?
They don't live there. That's what they said. When asked about it, they said, we don't live here. We bought these houses as retreats and meeting spaces. And here's the documentation of how many meetings we've had in this amount of time and how many people came to those meetings. Now, unless they're lying about that, which I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're lying, F them in an A. If they're not lying, I don't care. I'm not happy about it. I'm not a Black Lives Matter fan at all, but I'm not going to fall into the tear down Black people trap all the time. I'm critical about issues. I'm protective of my people.
Well, my question, though, is, for example, if I were to look up the CEO of the National Rifle Association, where does he live? What does that place look like?
Well, he doesn't. Here's the thing. NRA absolutely owns palatial. I'm not saying the word right. Tell me the word right. I butcher a lot of words.
Palatial palace.
Ranches and stuff like that. That are shooting ranges that no one lives in. The shooting ranges. They visit them. They vacation there. That's not their primary residence. So my question is it one of their residences? If so, it's wrong. If not, I don't care. I don't like Black Lives Matter anyway.
Here's the answer to our question. According to Wall Street Journal, the NRA promised $6.5 million to buy a mansion for the CEO, Rain LaPierre. So they sought to purchase that for him, $6 million.
Wow.
Okay.
So yeah. So they all do it. They all do it. It's commonplace.
Yeah. It says latest revelation. This was August of 2019. Latest revelation: aborted housing deal renews focus on gun rights groups' financial dealings.
NRA's dead though. I'm a big song. I'm a 2A guy, but I do not like the NRA. I'm an NGA guy, National Gun Association.
Let's try Planned Parenthood. Parenthood.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, yeah. I got like 5 more minutes, then I gotta go.
Okay, I don't see. I don't see anything about their housing.
But here's the thing: Black Lives Matter is the same fake elitist. We're talking about root causes, and it's just performative altruism. It's well-meaning, sure. It's not doing anything. And they conveniently disappeared after the elections. How funny. And when Black Lives Matter did not stand up for 70% of Black Americans when they said that they did not get vaccinated against any of these mandates. So we lost economic position from those mandates that did a lot of harm to the Black community. We don't talk about that because everybody's scared to talk about COVID, but the facts are 70% of Black people were unvaccinated when they were passing these mandates. Where was Black Lives Matter? They were not united. Black Lives Matter New York City was protesting. That's the only ones I know of.
Hey, as we close out, I want to get your opinion on something I got from Paul Chambers at the police department. Oakland smoke shop cited for selling flavored tobacco to minors. Says the Oakland Police Department Alcohol, Beverage, and Tobacco Unit conducted a special investigation last month targeting local Oakland smoke shops. Calls of concern from community members led to the recovery of prohibited flavored tobacco products. And they say the first line of defense in preventing children from obtaining tobacco products is the responsibility of merchants who sell it. Any store found out of compliance will face penalties. What do you think about the police department's latest action?
I mean, I don't off the cuffs. I would have to think more. I think it's interesting that they're focusing on that when there's a large amount of illicit cannabis operations that operate blatantly.
Hmm.
And our legal cannabis operations have to compete with those operations who don't pay taxes. Meanwhile, Oakland pays 9.5.
Can you name a name? Can you name names of somebody or some organization that fits in that category?
There's two clans. The branding changes, but they're called sessions. Now, look, I don't have a. This is complicated. I've gone to sessions and bought cannabis. They got good prices. The stores tax too much. But as an elected official, when you start talking about what's best for the city, you can't tax your cannabis companies 9.5% taxes and then allow the competition to operate illegally with consent because you don't never bust them. That's the problem. You just can't do that, right? So, like, I bring that up because how y'all got time for these smoke shops and y'all don't have time to shut down these open air drug markets? Take the open air drug market that are the reason our homeless encampments are so out of control. Everybody wants to demonize the homeless. Well, if there was no drug dealers right there to sell them their fentanyl 2 steps away from their tent and white wolves giving them crack pipes and needles every day. And there's nothing wrong with harm prevention. But the way you approach it through harm prevention is you have to, each time you give a needle or a crack pipe, you're supposed to tell them to quit drugs and tell them how and tell them where to call. They don't do that. So they're doing it wrong. You're enabling people. So stop the enablement. Make it harder to get the drugs. You ain't gonna be able to end the drugs. You gotta make it, you just can't allow people to sell drugs while somebody just died right in front of the cop. I mean, like, come on now, right? Like, you gotta have some baseline level of law and order. And that's a tough one because that's something we haven't quite done right in America yet.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Alistair Monroe had issues in the Oakland County. I don't know if you know his story, though, but basically he was saying that the cannery has had to actually let people go and make them homeless because they are sharing. The new owner has brought in these diesel generators, and it said that when the sale to real estate developers Green Sage LLC 4 years ago happened, they said since then the residents have endured constant harassment, code violations, and threats of eviction. And this is collective founding artist Arthur Monroe passed away October 2019 while fighting for the right to remain in the place he had built. Of the original occupied 20 studios housing ex-artists, 9 are vacant. The number will be 11 in a few months. These vacancies are a result of a concerted effort by these real estate developers, Green Sage, who now own the cannery, to make continued tenancy impossible, and when tenants leave, to keep the spaces unoccupied for their business. And I wanted to know if you knew about that or thought about.
I did not know about that. Can you send me that information so I can learn a little bit more?
Yeah, you should definitely meet Alistair. I need to get him back to find out. Yeah, Green Cannabis Real Estate Developer is what they're called. And they are focused on the legal North American cannabis industry.
Bad news bears, those guys, I'm sure. Anybody in big cannabis right now is probably a bad actor. We did not roll out the legalization of cannabis in a healthy way at all. California doesn't allow you to vertically integrate. It's enormous and excessive taxation, enormous barriers to entry to business, how much money you have to get the licensing, and it sets us up for failure. The equity program is well-meaning, but it just sets people up to be poached by these people. Like, oh, I can save some money if I have a black person. Let me go get me an equity partner and ride them to some financial saving. But it hasn't really transitioned to empowering, our community, because it can't, because we still don't meet all those other barriers to entry because our default social economic position of the average black person in America.
You say that. What bothers me about the program and the way the city does businesses in general is we know that black founders are more likely to have less money. Why don't we simply do what we used to do, engineer a program where they get a grant, or we give them a loan, but we turn it into a grant. We used to do that in the 80s and the 90s. We don't do that anymore. It's like, what was I don't understand what's going on where, in the case of cannabis, we don't want to say, hey, look, here's a block grant. Here's a minority business development block grant, right? Which we can locally fund. We can do that. But we don't. What am I missing?
I'm taking that idea and I'm going to go talk to Shani Turner.
Here you go.
And see if we can use it. And on that, I like to end on a good note. So a great idea is a good note. But hey, Zinni, you can always call me and I got an hour for you at least once a month. And let's stay in touch throughout this election.
Yeah, we got to bring you and Greg Hodge. Greg Hodge owes me an interview. We were supposed to do a date, got our wires crossed, I got sick, and then went on with old Bob, who used to be with PG&E, who I haven't seen in years, and ought to be on my show. So I just started cutting up Seneca's old videos. I thought, heck with that. I'll just make some new content out of you. I can still talk about you, have you talk about you, and I can use that.
Yeah, use it. It's great content. And we've got a lot more coming. Thought leadership is important. I don't take the potential role because I'm not claiming that I'm there yet, but we're on the way. And I say that because when you've got some of the people who I have writing me now and the levels that they're at in national media, let's just say that op-ed was very well received, and these are original thoughts that people aren't expressing right now.
Right.
They're not expressing them, and they're very well timed. And our candidacy is in timing's everything sometimes in life, with branding, with marketing, with social justice movements, with activism, and especially above all, populism.
Yep.
So, peace, brother.
Peace. Thank you, sir. Hey, stick around in the background. Hey, everybody. Subscribe to Zinni62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. That ends this